Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking about my vlog today, surgery experience. So I make a small incision in several points around your hip, cutting away, and we had to cut away some of the bone there. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't vlogged in for a while because I've had a lot going on. It's been super busy and been preoccupied with several things, so this wasn't really a planned vlog, but I thought I would get back onto it because I haven't vlogged for such a long time. It's not a usual thing. No one's home at the moment, so it's nice and quiet. Because we all have this thing where we say, you know, if you're talking to yourself, it's for a sign of madness, and it's kind of like you're talking to yourself or talking to your phone right now. So yeah, I just thought it'd be a bit weird if I was vlogging while someone was home. So my sister just left to work about an hour ago, and my parents are currently at work because I still live at home at the moment. Just because it's easiest to, you know, formulate to get on with stuff and how everything is, and with what's been going on this past year. So what I'm going to be talking about in my vlog today is actually my surgery experience. So I, a while ago, was diagnosed with a couple of issues in my hip, and it was decided a few months ago when I last saw the specialist that I would need a surgery because the symptoms were not going. So I'm going to move my camera, it's a little bit funny angle. So I'm currently sat down at the moment in front of the TV doing a little bit of work whilst I'm home on my own. Might as well get on with a few things. So I had my surgery about exactly 3 weeks today was when I had my surgery, and what they chose to do in my surgery was something called a hip arthroscopy. So those that don't know what that is what they do is they have multiple instruments which they make a small incision in several points around your hip, and they use, effectively it's called keyhole surgery as well. So they put the instruments in several points. You've got one point where they've got like a camera so they can see what's going on in the hip and where they're cutting away and what they're doing in the hip. So what I had to have done to my hip, there was 4 things they had to do. So the first thing was they had to repair the inside of my labrum. I had a small amount of damage. Fortunately, it wasn't too bad. So that was not too difficult to do. And the second and third thing, there was 2 areas that kind of similar. So around the outside of the hip socket, I had extra bone growth on the front area of my hip and around the back, which was causing like a lot of pressure and impingement on nerves and things going in my back. So by impingement, it's pressing on the nerves basically. So that's why I was getting a lot of back pain and like shooting pains down my leg. So they had to cut away some of the bone there because I had extra bone that shouldn't be there. And also the last thing they had to do was on a section at the top of my actual femur bone, so my leg bone. You've got this bridge that comes down from the actual ball that sits in the socket, which is the head of the femur, that had extra growth where it had been hitting on the other area, or should I say the hip socket, around the edge where the bone had grown. It was hitting there and had extra growth, so it should have looked like a smooth curve, so that the top of the head of the femur should have looked like a bit, kind of like a light bulb, but it didn't because I had this extra bone growth that shouldn't have been there. So they had to cut that away as well, and that's pretty much what was done. It was meant to be a 3-hour surgery. That's what it was estimated at, but it actually took just over 4 hours. And before, what involved in the whole surgery procedure is on the day of my appointment, I had to, well, actually the day before I had to wash with the special pre-op stuff. Some of you probably know, if you've had surgery before, this is kind of what you need to do. It's just for hygiene reasons and to keep things clean and to reduce the risk of infection. So I had to wash with it once the night before, and then on the morning of the surgery. So my surgery was actually in the middle of the day, so I had to fast from the evening. So I literally had my last meal in the evening, and then the next day I could not eat anything. Actually, I did eat. Sorry, I forgot I didn't eat. I ate in the morning. I ate breakfast, but I had to eat before 8 o'clock, and then I could not eat anything after that. So I had several hours where I could not eat or drink anything. They did say I could drink like small sips of water, so that's what I did just to stay hydrated. And basically what happened when I got to my appointment is I had to fill out a few things for paperwork, check through a few forms about, general medical history and things like that. And then I was taken through to be prepped for surgery. So I was put in this like waiting room on a bed, and I had to wait there for a bit. They ran a few more tests. So anyone who knows standard procedure for hospitals, I don't know if this works for every surgery, but from my experience, I was sent to do stuff like a pregnancy test and things like that. My blood pressure was taken as well. And it was all just to make sure everything was safe and, that there wasn't going to be any precautions that needed to be taken. They, again, went through all the paperwork, checked that nothing was dodgy. My temperature was also taken. It was a little bit high because I had just got over a really nasty cold, and I guess it was probably still where my body was recovering from the cold, but they sent me through anyway. They didn't see it being a problem, and basically I got wheeled out on the bed into the pre-op room. What they do in the pre-op room for my specific procedure that I had done is, so I got wheeled into a pre-op room where there was multiple patients in there, and what happened was I had to wait there for a bit. They went through again, double checking the paperwork, and after that, pretty much, I had something to take. I took a tablet before because I was quite nervous, and I didn't really know what to expect with this particular surgery. Again, it was my first surgery, so I didn't really know what to expect from like the experience, what it would be like, how scary it was going to be, or how painful it was going to be, and I was mostly worried about waking up as well after. So after that, my blood pressure was checked again as well. I already had my gown on. That was the first thing I had to do when I actually got sent through in the hospital, and then I had to put this this mesh cap over my hair. I had to take all my earrings and everything out, all my jewelry, and all my hair had to be down. Like, nothing metal was allowed in. And then from that point, I was later on wheeled into the actual proper pre-op room, so the one that you go in, that is just before the theatre room, before you go in for the actual surgery. And the first thing that was done was I had a cannula put in my arm. So most cannulas are usually put in the back of your hand, but this one was actually put on the inside of my elbow. So I had that put in. It wasn't too uncomfortable. I'm not usually great with things going on the inside of my elbow. Like if I have blood tests, I react quite bad to it, and needles don't really bother me, but it's just the sensation as soon as I have a needle put in my arm. I'm more with injections, but it's just certain things, like if it's intramuscular, I'm going right into the muscle in your arm, or if it's like a blood test, I just react really bad to them. So I was quite nervous about that, but I barely felt it. It literally just felt like a little tiny pinch, and it was done quite quickly. And once it was in, it felt a little bit strange because it's effectively a flexible tube that's sitting in your vein in your arm, and so I was a bit worried about bending my arm, but they said it was fine to bend my arm. And the next thing I had to do was sit up and actually curl over around my back and keep my arms had to cross my chest like this, and I had to have my arms up touching my shoulders. And this was so that they could get to the gaps between my vertebrae and my back. So then I had an injection put in in my back, and the idea of this injection was to just numb my legs, ready for the surgery, so that I wouldn't feel anything, and to make sure that everything was relaxed and that. And it was a very odd sensation. And one of the things the anaesthetist said was that my feet would probably start to feel warm once once the chemicals or the medicine starts working. And that was the first thing I noticed, is that my feet started feeling really warm. It's a really odd sensation. Some people apparently don't like it. It didn't really bother me, because I generally, most of the time, have really cold feet. People that do know me, I suffer from something called chilblains, which is basically poor circulation in my feet. I get it in my hands, particularly when it's cold, like in the winter. So I have to make sure I keep my feet warm. And this was something I had to make sure I did after the surgery as well, just because when you've got all the swelling coming up, it goes down your leg and everything, and that can also reduce the blood flow further, getting into those lower extremities as well. So it's going to obviously amplify that effect. So after I had the injection, I was wheeled into the theatre room, and once I got in the theatre room, I had a mask put over my face. One of the nurses in there was talking to me as well. There was people amongst in the pre-op stuff talking to me as well. I saw the surgeon and the anaesthetist first as well. And then once I was in the theatre room, literally, I do not remember anything after this. I just remember a mask being put over my face, someone talking to me. I think the anaesthetist must have snuck in the medicine that, the anesthesia, I can't speak what it's called, but the anaesthetic, I think that must have been put in when I was distracted by the nurse, because I didn't notice it. But next thing you know, I don't even recall falling asleep or anything. I didn't feel any pain. I didn't dream anything. Like, literally, it was just that was the last memory I had. And next thing you know, I woke up and I was in the hospital bed. And once I woke up in the hospital bed, I still had the cannula in. I was on one of those drips where they've IV fluids coming in to keep you hydrated. And I wasn't in any pain when I woke up. I ached a little bit. Like, I could feel that something had been done, but I wasn't really aware. It didn't really feel like something had been done. It's kind of hard to describe the feeling. But literally about 5 minutes after that, my family walked in to come see me, which was a nice surprise. And they sat to keep me company for a bit, because it was quite late in the evening, and they'd actually sent me into the surgery later than what was originally anticipated. So I was a little bit later coming out as well, and because the surgery was slightly longer than expected, it meant I didn't get any food. I was absolutely starving. I'm not kidding. I'm allowed to get up for the first, I think it was must have been about 8 hours or so, probably a bit longer than that, but that was pretty much it. So I couldn't get up. So days ago, I found out that there was dissolvable stitches, because I accidentally pulled one out. It hurt. And I mean, it hurt. I did not realise. I was like, there's something plastic in my leg. I have no idea what this is, because I had the dressing all removed like last week, and I didn't realise until a little while after that I had some of the dissolvable stitches in there. And I saw there was originally just steri strips over the top, so obviously they must have put something in to close the area. It pretty much healed within the first 2 weeks. It was pretty much healed. And it was actually a bit more before 2 weeks. It was actually at the end of the week I had another post-op appointment, and also it meant that I was given clearance to go back to university. So after the first week, I went back exactly on the 2-week mark for the post-op appointment. Sorry, not the post-op appointment, the post-op period. So I had surgery 2 weeks ago on that day. I went back to uni. I didn't go to the lectures in the morning, because it is a long time to be sat, particularly if you've just had like a lot of things done in your hip. It can be quite uncomfortable. So I only went to the labs where you're up moving and doing things a lot of the time, but I had the choice to sit down if I needed to. And pretty much after that, I did have a few issues during the first week. There's one thing I forgot to mention with that. I had a few issues during the first week with the medications, because they were quite strong. So that's one thing I would I would advise to you, if the medications are strong, or you're getting upset stomach or anything like that, or you're having problems like that, or it's making you feel sick or making you actually sick, definitely get checked and see, because it might be because the medicines are too strong for you. That was the issue I had. There was one particular medication I had that was a slow release pain relief, and that was actually causing lots of stomach irritation, and we weren't advised at the time to eat before taking them, so we didn't realise that. So I did get sick like the day before I saw the specialist again, and but after that I was fine. So it probably was because I didn't eat enough that day or something, or maybe just all the medications going in my system still were causing a bit of irritation. I have had some other problems as well along the way, but generally everything seems to have settled down, and they say it's roughly about a month before everything's out of your system and the anaesthetic completely wears off. So I still feel quite exhausted at the moment, and obviously my body's still healing and recovering from all the things that are done, and it does get quite uncomfortable after a while as well, particularly in my case. With the procedure I have, I'm not allowed to lie on my side yet, so when I go to bed or any time I was literally on bed rest for the first 2 weeks, I did get up and move around every now and then, because it got so uncomfortable lying on my back for ages. I was getting sores on my heels and my back area and back to my legs, so I literally had to pad the bed down to make sure it was comfortable. And anyone, again, that knows me that well, like my family, will know I am not, I repeat this, I am not a back sleeper. I cannot stand sleeping on my back. I never sleep on my back. I like to sleep half on my side, half on my front. It's probably not the best position, because where I have my leg is not probably great for my hip, because I have it up at the side. It's really hard to just explain without showing, but it's a really weird position, but it's what's comfortable for me. Now, I found out the other day when I had my first physio appointment, so I started that last week, and they actually told me the information that she was sent from the surgeon was that I was actually allowed to lie on my stomach from after 1 week for 15 minutes a day. But no one informed me that. I was told specifically that I couldn't lie on my tummy for a while, and I think it was something like I had to wait 4 weeks before I could lie on my side, and I would have to have a cushion between my knees, just because obviously how gravity works. And then I think it's maybe like 6 weeks I could then lie on my stomach or something like that, they were saying. But like the physio said, it's fine as long as I'm laid flat and I'm not, like, my chest isn't up high, or I'm not on my elbows or anything like that, because it's not putting any stress from my hip. The next physio was I had to do hydro. So hydro, what I mean by hydro is hydrotherapy, which is basically where you do a bunch of exercises in the pool. Now normally they like the water to be up to your waist height, but obviously when you're new to it and you're only just starting your rehab, then generally you go down the deeper end, and the water's usually up to about chest height, and you just do a bunch of exercises to get a bit of mobility back into the area, into the joint, and to strengthen the muscles up gradually without overstraining all the tissues and all the joint where it's healing and everything like that. Having my hip at an angle of higher than 90 degrees in front of me, I couldn't do that. Not too much work, nothing that's putting too much strain on my hip flexors, because they're all going to be healing still, and all the muscles going to be a bit sore and tender anyway from all the incisions areas and all the swelling. That's it for me. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.